22-23 for the low. You'll be near 40 with partly to mostly sunny skies Friday. Saturday, partly sunny around 30, and a chance of some light snow Sunday, partly to mostly cloudy in the low 20s. Your life, your music. We're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. The Islamic State says it was behind a suicide bomb attack in the Afghan capital Kabul, which killed at least 41. The UN says at least 68 civilians died in a single day this week in airstrikes in Yemen. France could demand the UK pays to set up customs checkpoints after Brexit, according to the Telegraph, and thousands of passengers stranded by snowy conditions in the UK are resuming journeys as airlines work to restore flight schedules.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone out there, and a happy Thursday to you. I hope that you're having a great start to your day. You're tuned into Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Quabila Harden, and I have a room full of very special guests with me today. I have, starting with my right, Mrs. Emma Agnew from the City of Jonesboro. She is the Community Services Manager for the city. She's been all around the town. If you haven't seen her, you don't know her, then you need to get to know her. She helps coordinate a lot of the volunteers and all the organizations that work together for the City of Jonesboro, and a lot of other things that she'll get into a little bit later on. We have Mr. Kobe Parker from Men on a Mission. He is the executive director for Men on a Mission, and they are essentially a mentoring group that works with young men. What is the age group of the young men that you work with? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, the age group we work with are ages 8 to 18.
Okay, 8 to 18. And we'll get more into what you do a little bit later on. And we have also Mr. David McClain. Now, he plays multiple roles in the city. He's full-time at Arkansas State University, where he is the executive director of development. I was writing it down, sorry. Development for Arkansas State University. And he'll tell us more about what that is. And also, he serves on the Jonesboro City Council. All right. We have Mr. Emma Williams. He is a minister of Magnolia Road Baptist Church, and he's been ministering for 66 years. That's wonderful. And he also...
Did you say 50 or 60?
60.
60, yeah, okay, right.
And he also works with an organization that they have created. It's a national organization, but they have started at the Magnolia Road location. It's FAN, F-A-N-N. Okay, and it is a food pantry type service, and we'll get more into
No, not food pantry.
Not food pantry. No, I'm sorry.
No, we don't do
we'll get
more later, but it's not food pantry.
It's a service that helps families to meet their meat needs. I apologize. We'll get more into, I have the brochure, so we'll get more into exactly what FAN does. And we also have Mr. Nate Looney. Good morning. He is a lawyer here in Jonesboro. He's been licensed for about 5 years and practicing before. And generally what he does is civil litigations. All right, so to get everything halfway right today, so we want to thank you all for coming in. And today is day 3 of Kwanzaa, Ujima, and that means collective work and responsibility. I invited these individuals here to talk about this because in the organizations and the jobs they serve in, they work together to bring people together. They try to connect people with resources. They care about they care about the people and their needs, and they try to bring all those things together to increase the quality of life of everyone that they interact with. So we're going to start with Miss Emma, and tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you do what you do and how it reflects with the principal.
Okay, thank you, Quabila. Quabila, you feel like you're having one of those mornings that I have sometimes. It's kind of hard to get started.
Yes.
So in my role in the city is one of community service, as in my title, Community Services Manager. So I have an opportunity on a daily basis to be able to help people to share what they have, to share their gifts and their talents with others. And there are a number of ways we do. A couple just real quick is, the hub through the Mayor's Task Force to End Homelessness and the city government. We founded the hub, which is helping underserved belong. And the hub is ran totally by volunteers. We provide resources for homeless individuals. There's no other place like it in the city. It's not a shelter, but we provide resources. So homeless people are able to come in and hopefully we can meet their immediate needs. We do things such as getting IDs and birth certificates, things such as helping them get their Social Security, walking them through that kind of thing, get them started, helping them with their food stamps application, helping them look for jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is a way that the community is serving a need and trying to help people be a part of the community. And as we know, Kwanzaa, one of the things about Kwanzaa is community.
Yes,
it's all about being a community, and so that's just one of the ways. And then to piggyback off that, we also have a continuum of care grant that we received from HUD, where we have actually been able to take families from homelessness and put them into homes. And so we had 8 families that we're working with. HUD said, okay, this is how much money you get. You should be able to house 8 families. So we had the hub sent us 8 families, and we've housed 7 of them. And the 8th one has found a place. They're just doing some finishing touches on it. So we've been able to take 7 people off the street and place them into living situations to help, and are helping them on a regular basis to become sustainable, because our assistance will only last for a year. And then after that year, they will be on their own. And so our goal is to help them be sustainable at the end of that year. So when we say, okay, all the money's gone, you're on your own, that they will be able to survive. So that's yet another way that, we are trying to look out for our brother and our fellow man. And that's what Ujima is all about, is looking out for each other, taking care of each other. And I could talk some more if we have time later, but I'll let somebody else speak.
So much good work to talk about.
Yeah, really. So
that's exciting. I'm getting fired up just listening to you.
I want to tell it all, but I'll stop there.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kobe.
My name is Kobe Parker, and I'm the Executive Director of Men on a Mission. And what Men on a Mission is a faith-based community organization. We focus on community enrichment, community development. And the way we go about doing that is just targeting mentoring, stewardship, and community service. And so our goal is to create programs that revolve around that, and that essentially make community better, and it goes right in line with the collective works of Kwanzaa. So I feel like it's very important for us to focus on our communities, and the way we go about enhancing our community is identifying men in the community that want to make a difference, and we kind of walk with them and help them figure out what they want to do, where there's a need in the community, and from there just help them structure it out. One of the things we were able to do initially, we started a community service program, and it's called Operation Give Back, and through that program we do Thanksgiving baskets for families that are in need. We sponsor families for Christmas. We've done school supply and backpack giveaways, and just different things to meet the needs of the community. And so from there, we saw that there was a need to do other things, and so we started our mentoring program, which is called Empower Mentoring. And so with our mentoring program, what we do, we focus on at-risk youth that are ages 8 to 18, and so we get them connected with a productive male in their community, to walk with them and be extra help for them. And we feel like that's important because the kids that are identified as at risk come from single-parent households, low socioeconomic status, having issues, failing classes, things like that. And so they just need somebody to help them and push them and encourage them. And so that's why we felt like it was important to have our mentoring program, because like I said, they don't have, most of them don't have father figures, or if they do have father figures, they may not be able to walk with them like they want to because of working and doing other things to provide for them. So that's just kind of what we decided. And the model that we use is a model that comes from DYS, which is Division of Youth Services, which is under the DHS umbrella. And they gave us a model and they said, hey, if you want to have a successful mentoring program, these are some things you need to do. They gave us some training. And so from there, we implemented our program. And this is our second year doing our program. We've had a lot of success. We've been able to partner with a lot of people in the community, such as A-State, the Criminology, Sociology, and Geography Department. CCC is Continuing Coordinating Council, which is through Mid-South. They've helped us out a lot. And just different people in the community, some of the small businesses and things like that. So that's how we go about focusing on building up the community, is by targeting men that are trying to do things, helping empower them, and give them structure to create programs that they want, and then working with the youth.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. All right, Mr. David.
All right, so I'm the Executive Director of our Development Office at A-State, which basically is we fundraise.
Okay.
It's really, keep it simple, we're the fundraisers for the university, so scholarships, professor support, things like that. And my second role is being on the city council and serving on finance as well as public safety committees. And in those, we make sure the money's right for the city, and we also make sure the city's safe. Doing that has allowed me the opportunity to make sure, some of the programs Emma mentioned, making sure we have the resources and use those to help, in our homeless community, and then also try to look at ways we can also better the community in terms of quality of life, in terms of making sure everyone feels safe. That's something that is dear to me, because I don't think we can have the kind of city we want if everyone doesn't feel safe, and if everyone doesn't feel like they belong, or they don't feel like they matter. For me, if we're not the kind of city that everyone feels that way, then I think we won't grow as we want to grow. My third hat would be, you talked about how we're working and being in our community, is serving at our church, Word Baptist. Serving there, typically with the youth, and specifically with, I use this term all the time, and I tell them that they're knothead little boys, because they typically are. You talking about ages 7th grade to high school, they are seniors. They're little boys, and but working with them, mentoring them, and trying to help them understand what's going on in the world, but not also there, but also as believers. So that's what I do, as well as father, husband, all that good stuff.
Multiple hats. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, Minister Williams, and I apologize for getting the definition of fan wrong. And I'm looking at the brochure, and it specifically says how we are different from a food pantry.
Oh, thank you for straightening that out.
Okay.
Basically, I've been impressed as we've gone around the table. One of my pet peeves through the years is that there are multiple organizations, and sometimes there are several organizations that deal with the same thing, and we need that overlap. And I've been impressed with the fact that as we've talked, we do two things. We do not overlap or duplicate, that's the term. Not duplicate services, but we do connect. And I think that's very, very important. And I've been impressed to hear what you all have said, very, very much. As I said, I've been minister for 56 years, and I'm now entering my 90th year of birth. And when I turned 89, I started thinking I'm in my 90th year now. But a pastor of the Magnolia Baptist Church, this was a mission that we started at First Baptist many years ago. So I have no interim at all. When I was retired from First Baptist Church, I immediately became pastor at Magnolia Road Baptist Church. But we have a long history of being involved in ministry. When I was at First Baptist in 1974, we began the Care Center program, which has grown into a very large program that serves the city. But 2 or 3 years ago, my son Todd and others read the book Toxic Charity, which talks about the fact that a food pantry and that sort of approach does sometimes become toxic, in that there are the benefactors that sit up at the high level and they hand out things to those who are on the lower level, which is sometimes the way food pantries get perceived as being, whether they don't mean to be that way at all. And the FAN program is exactly the other way around. People who have needs, food needs, come together themselves and form a kind of a club. It is a community, and we now have 16 families that are involved in the FAN program, family and neighborhood. It serves people, and as they minister to each other, and they become permanent members. And so every 2 weeks, the same people come together, and they become a kind of community, reaching out to each other, sharing needs, sharing concerns. And this is not part of the Magnolia Road Baptist Church. As a matter of fact, in just a moment, Nate Looney will be talking about this, that he is chairman of our Community Service Center. And I have been impressed with the fact how many times those two words have been used here, community and service. And the Community Service Center is not a part of the Magnolia Road Baptist Church. They meet there. Okay. They meet there, but we don't sponsor it. And so when I became pastor of the church, we immediately began to move in that direction. And so the service that we render is, we try not to duplicate what others are doing. Okay. We try to supplement what they're doing. And we furnish, Nader, you want to talk about how much food we give to people?
I'd be happy to. Oh. We can kind of tag team
it's been estimated we provide about 40% of the food needs of the families who come.
Each year.
Each year. And we buy the food from the Northeast Arkansas Food Bank, and others give that. Well, we put in a plug for Truck Patch. I can do that.
I think so.
All right.
Community partner. Yeah.
The Truck Patch gives us a lot of fresh food that we are able to distribute. The families who come, actually every day, every time we meet, they take the food and unload it and then put it out in the bins, and they work, and so that we distribute evenly. But the fact of the matter is, we as a church have seen our part as furnishing a place for this to happen while we cooperate with the Community Service Center, of which Nate is the honored chairman. I'll stop there. I have more to say.
Okay. I have a couple things to add real quick. And one, going back to how I even got involved with the Community Services Center, I was out at the Edge Coffee House, who serves Ann Williams, the owner. Emil Williams' daughter also serves on the council with David McLean. So
thank you so much for that plug. Yeah. Thank you.
But we were all sitting out talking one day, and we're talking about issues facing Jonesboro, facing Arkansas, and I heard about some of the good work the Community Service Center was doing, and some of the work it has done in the past, and there's this idea of this FAN program. I thought, FAN program, what in the world is that? And I immediately thought food pantry, and to be sure, we are not anti-food pantry at all, because actually the Community Service Center still operates a food pantry, but that's to meet a different type of need. As Emma was talking about earlier, you have folks that have immediate emergency needs. Those are folks that are, quite frankly, they don't know where the next meal is going to come from, and they need to be able to walk in to be able to have that need met. The FAN program is designed for folks that are facing food insecurity, long-term food insecurity, but are kind of in a spot where they're able to be solidified in one area, meaning they're not going to be transient, moving around place to place. They might have kids in a place, they might have family ties, and they're capable of being able to come together, because as Emma was saying, one of the key things from this is the sense of community is developed, because this really isn't something where we have a venue and people come through a line and we give them something, but it's really something they're a part of. They pay actually a little bit for the food each time they come.
They don't pay for the food.
Well, I'm sorry, that's a big thing too. We'll get
the food.
To be a member, and that is an important distinction. Thank you. I'm still on my first cup of coffee, so you're going to have to forgive me. But
I know.
but so they pay to be part of this group, and whenever they meet each week, there's a truck that comes. They help unload that truck. They distribute the food into different groups, and they decide how much food's going to go out. And then the money that they actually raise, which turns out to be a lot, they decide how that's spent. That could be given it to a community organization. They've thrown a party in the past where they brought their families together. They could bring in speakers. There's always this time where they come together and they share about what's important in their life. And that's, I think, the bigger thing that's really emerged out of all this thing is people have a support network that they can go to, not only during the time that the group meets, but whenever they just come across hard times in life like all of us do. And so the impact of fans has been incredible. Since we launched this in 2015, we've given through our different partnerships the opportunity to be able to distribute over 65,000 pounds of food. And this year alone, we're close to 30,000 pounds. And the average cost for family is about $215. And so you're able to meet about 40% of these groups' yearly food needs for $215. And that's a pretty good return on an investment there. But this is the brainchild of Emma Williams and all these folks. I'm just happy to be a part of it.
All right, well, we're going to have to stop right there. We thank you so much, each one of you, for sharing that information. We're going to get into some more questions when we come back from our break. And I want to give a shout out to everyone that is watching our live stream. Thank you for those. I'll get to your messages when we come back from our break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Heard the one about the comedian who couldn't wait to get home? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Jeff Foxworthy has been making people laugh for years, but he takes his role as a husband and father very seriously. So much so that he'd often hire a plane to get back from a late night gig so he'd be there to take his daughters to school the next morning. In the same way, are you doing everything you can to make sure that you spend as much time with your family as possible? It's very important to provide for your family, but above all, they need your presence. When all's said and done, being there is what really matters. Remember, your family first.
For more resources on today's topic, go to markmerrill.com. The Family Minute with Mark Merrill, helping families love well.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, we're back again. Thank you for tuning in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Khalila Hardin, and my very special guests are Mrs. Emma Agnew, Mr. Kobe Parker, Mr. David McClain, Mr. Emma Williams, and Mr. Nate Looney. So if you missed the first part of the show, you missed a really great discussion, but you can always go back and catch it on Facebook. All right, so now we're going to get into some more questions that are relating to our topic of the day. As you may know, today is day 3 of Kwanzaa, and the principle is Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility. Before we get to our questions, I want to give some shout outs to Ms. Marsha Phyllis, Mr. Chu, Angie, she's going to kill me for not saying her last name right. Okay. Mr. Dante Barker, Dr. Shannon Lewis, Lachey Robinson, good morning to you. Ms. Cynthia Jeffrey. Lachey says Happy New Year to these dedicated community servants. And Lachey says, hey, Ms. Emma. So thank you all for tuning in.
Hey, Lachey.
Thank you all for tuning in and watching and commenting. Okay, make sure to share this video with everybody. Okay, so let's get into our first discussion point. Explain from your experience how we can get more done together than separately. Each one of you have shared what you do within your positions. And a lot of you have overlapped or interconnected with each other at some point in time. But from your personal experience, how can we, and not just we here, we as a whole can get more done together than separately? I'm going to start this way.
Uh-oh, no pressure. Right? That's a tough one. Just before I kind of dive into that answer, I mean, you look at what's happening throughout the world right now, you look what's happening in America, all the way down to this community, and there are some significant issues out there. Significant issues. I mean, you just take poverty, for instance. We've got 200,000 kids living in poverty in Arkansas. Arkansas, on the other side of that, we also are one of the nation's leaders in senior food insecurity issues. So that means our kids are hungry, and that means our seniors are hungry. And so at some point, there's something along the way that we need to do a little bit differently. Now, look at poverty as just one element of a larger thing that's happening, but to go to your question, these problems are too big for any one person to be able to handle. It's too big for any one community group to be able to handle. It's too big for the government to be able to handle alone. And so I think it's going to take all of us, from the individual working through the groups that you're a part of, all the way to your public servants like David McLean here and Emma Agnew that are working on it from the governmental level, all working together to try to help these people. And at the end of the day, again, alone, there's only so much we can do, but working together, the possibilities are limitless.
Okay, all right. Mr. Emma, would you like to weigh in?
On our community service center, we have the head of DHS, Department of Human Services, on our board.
Okay.
And so we talk about how to get on the SNAP program. And it's good for her to see a group outside this governmental thing, the problems they face, and it helps her to connect with these. And so we've talked about the fact that there are those who say that people who need to be on the what does SNAP stand for? That's supplementary nutritional. Okay. Anyway, those who are in the program, we heard this criticism of families in need. Now, why don't they apply? They can get help if they just apply. No. And so now Janice has emphasized the fact we're here to help them. Mm-hmm. We're here to take the initiative in saying this is how you may do it. And so there are needs. The point that I want to make, that pick up on something that Nate just said, we do connect and we do realize there are gaps. And so we need to realize that our bigger danger is not overlapping, but gaps.
Okay.
And there are people who fall through the gaps. And I think meetings like this that we're having today are very important, fundamental, as we sit around the table here and talk about what each one of us does to see how we may connect with each other. Okay. And I think I've already discovered, I've seen 2 or 3 places already where I say, that's a place where we need to do some things. Okay. Now, the Community Service Center, you see, is not just a fan program. It's one of the things we sponsor. It's the main thing right now. Okay. But we have other needs, have other issues as well. And one of the main ones is social injustice or criminal injustice. Injustice. And we as we sit around the table here and we as we look at you, we understand that the justice system is tilted, and we know that those who serve, that how many people we've incarcerated, the vast majority of these are African American. Why? And so we have on our community service center several lawyers that we hope that we can do some pro bono services for those who need help. My son, youngest son, Ben, does public defender work in Cook County, Chicago. And so, doesn't make much money, but it serves a real need. And so this is a place where people need to connect and say, this is a gap. This is the thing where we're not meeting the need. And I don't think we can ignore it any longer. And so that's one of the things we need to have right at the top of our list.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Mr. David?
All right, I'm going to have to ask you that. Say your question one more time.
Okay. Explain from your experience how we can get more done together than separately.
I would say, from my experience, you have to be willing to listen to each other and take, okay, Nate has an idea, Emma has an idea. How do we put something together, some type of program, or do we create some type of ministry that goes out and addresses that need, whether it be through food, whether it be through, I would say a holistic view, because you have to not only deal with the individual and their needs, so you have to have that entire you have to meet all their needs, not just you can't just give them food one day, right? I can't just give them clothes one day, right? And I have to be genuine when I do this. So you have to find a way to work together in order to address the community needs. I have to find a way to work with COVID. I have to find a way, and so that's the way I would say it. Okay. And then also have to be in the community to number one, see the needs, and then also to be able to address it, and not just from a high level where I just give money to it, but I'm actually there and I'm actually involved in it. So more than just you throw money at the problem, but more you're involved. You roll your sleeves up and you jump in as well, whether it be through the program you guys have at Magnolia, whether it be through, like I said, what Kobe's doing, or volunteering anywhere, but that's where I feel like we have to, and in my experience, that's what it's taken, rolling up my sleeves and getting out there and working. Like I said earlier, through our church has been my biggest way. My family and I, we get out and we do things that way. So that's, for me, that's my experience, is going out and going about it that way.
Okay.
Can I speak out of turn? I know this. Something came to mind. I just must say it. I think we do so much of this handing off. When there's a need, we say the government will take care of that, or you take care of this. And I think we need more of this involvement of, well, just a very simple thing. How can I help? How can I be a part of this? We do too much handing off to others. All right. Okay.
And that's why I said we have to not say, okay, the government's going to take care of it, or somebody else in the community. But we got to be willing to get out there and do it ourselves, and not be afraid to help folks. And that's, at the end of the day, we got to take care of each other.
Okay. I don't think amen has been said. I'm going to say amen.
All right, Mr. Kobe.
All right, to kind of go off of what David was saying, that if you see that there's a need, then you should meet it. That's kind of where I was. Growing up, I was the oldest of 5 children. Grew up in a single-parent household, and so to me, if I saw that there was an issue, I wanted to be the one to solve it. I wanted to be the one to fix everything. My family looks at me as the problem solver. I'm the peacemaker or whatever. And so when I saw that there were needs, I wanted to do it all. And I got to the point where I got so exhausted, I was spreading myself so thin that I realized that I couldn't do it by myself. And that's when I started to pray, and I knew that God had given me a vision for the organization, but I didn't know how it was going to manifest. And maybe a couple of hours after I prayed that God would send me some help to give me some guidance on how to handle things and give me support. I got a phone call at my job from a guy that I'm working with now. He's one of my best friends, Jonathan Martin. We didn't know each other, but Mr. Lewis Davis, the probation officer, Jonathan reached out to him about wanting to do mentoring. And then Mr. Lewis gave him my phone number, and he called me at work, maybe about an hour or so after I had prayed about it. And so, we talked for a second, and immediately we connected, and we knew that, God had given us the same vision, the same passion for, helping the youth and doing things like that. And so we connected in that way. And so I know that there's people that Jonathan and other people can reach that I can't. And so I think that us working together, it creates diversity. And so if you're going to reach a diverse group of people, you have to look a certain way. You have to be diverse, because everybody's not going to be receptive of the message that I have or the things that I'm doing. But if David can come say it another way, or Nate can say it another way, then they may be receptive. And regardless to whether it's from me, David, or whoever else, as long as they're receiving the message, and as long as they're being encouraged and somebody's walking with them, that's the ultimate goal. It's not about me or anything that I'm doing. Our goal is to encourage one another, hold each other accountable, and like David said, make sure that as believers, we're discipling other people.
All right. Thank you so much for that. All right, Ms. Emma.
Okay, so I am all about partnerships and collaboration. Mm-hmm. I just think as a community, we just cannot do anything in a vacuum. It is so important to partner with someone and to collaborate with somebody else. to get ideas and input from a number of perspectives. That's the first thing. But then the second thing I want to say, and David may back me up or he may feel that he's not supposed to, I don't know. That I want to say is, we've been talking a lot about what we can do as a community, and there's plenty. I'm not talking about, as organizations and individuals, but I want to challenge those people who are listening to become engaged in your community. I'm a proponent of community engagement. If you want to change something, okay, you back me up there. If you want to change something, get engaged in it. Get involved. Form a group. Now you talk about power. There is power in groups and numbers in the city council chambers. You put a group together, you talking about social injustice? If enough folk agree with Reverend Williams that there is social injustice in this community, I dare you to form you a coalition of 200, 300, 400 folk that want to fight social injustice. Show up at City Hall to a meeting.
And we will listen. If you got 200-300, we will
listen.
You don't even have to be on the agenda.
See some action, I
we
promise
got public
you.
comment section.
Yeah. I think a good word is, what are you going to do about it?
That's right. You need
what
to
are
be
you
part
going
of,
to do
You got
about
to be
it?
a part of this coalition.
Yeah.
Because most people are thinking, well, I don't have a voice.
Yes, you do.
City council is not going to listen to me if I show up and talk about my issues. But if you take some, and it doesn't have to be 200, 300, 400.
Right.
They'll listen for a lot less. But I mean, social justice.
You'd be past fire code if you got 200.
Right. Yeah. So it doesn't. I'm exaggerating. It doesn't take that many. But that's what you can do as an individual. Yeah. You make your voice heard by being a part of a group, being a part of a coalition, and speaking out against injustice, speaking out against food insecurity, speaking out against zoning laws, speaking out against anything.
Yes.
Sidewalks, traffic lights, stop signs. If you show up in numbers,
Green spaces.
Green spaces. Anything your heart desires. If you do it in numbers, and if it's something that's possible to make happen, and most things are, then you begin to see action and movement on it. But now you can't stop after one time.
That's right.
You have to keep yourselves together and stay organized. So I challenge you, to form groups and organize yourself and speak up for what you want. That's how the system works.
Okay.
As they said, the noisy wheel gets the most grease.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you start to make noise, you'll see things change in your favor. So that's how you get things done together. Is showing up together and making it happen.
And that ties into the next question. How can we as adults that are sitting around having these conversations pass this message on and drive it home for the younger ones that are coming up behind us?
I think the show them.
Right.
Right. I think what I just said, if we start to show young people that this is how it's done, you need to organize. You can't just complain all the time about something not happening. If you organize and speak out as a group, as a collective voice, if you show them, then they will just know that's how it's done. We didn't have any forerunners to do that for us as African Americans.
Yes.
As African Americans, we didn't have anybody do that for us. So if we start to do that now, then our children will see that's how you make change.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how you make it the correct way.
Yes. I would agree. I know I'm supposed to let Kobe go. I would agree just because we have to make it clear. We have to make it very clear to our kids, to our the next generation. When I turned 18, my grandmother called me and said, "Make sure you go register to vote that day." I turned 18. It was like, look, you can't wait. It was like, you have to go and do it right now.
Okay.
Because she knew the importance of it, and she knew the importance of being involved in not just voting, but also she was part of some other areas where she would mobilize folks to get out and be a part of the community. But we have to make that very clear that you have to be engaged. You have to be proactive. You can't wait. When you react, it's too late. And then it's one thing that it breaks my heart when I hear folks say my vote or my it doesn't count.
Well, that's the folks in Virginia about.
It's really, it's like, look, it does. And once you put so many together and so many of those together, like you said, the voice, you will hear it because number one, if you let somebody else vote for you or have that say over you, you took yourself out of the equation, and that won't move the needle, and it won't get the attention of the folks who you want to make the change for you. And so you have to. We have to make that clear.
That collective voice is powerful, and you talk about Virginia. Ask the folk in Alabama.
Right.
That collective voice is powerful, whether it be at the polls, in council chambers, or wherever. It is.
I think the things that have happened just recently have wakened some people up. Wait a minute, I don't need to let others do this. I need to be involved. We've done a lot of talking about millennials, and I think we need, and so many of them have just so many young people I've talked to says, there's no need me doing anything, it doesn't make any difference. And I don't want to be political. Well, I do. I want to be a little political here. The fact is, we've let this develop in our country. It's horrible right now, the divisions among us, and the horrible feeling of anger and hate toward each other. And I think much of it is because a lot of people have dropped out, and they need to be called back. And maybe meetings like this can be one of the ways that we can do it in our own community. All right.
All right, so I don't want Kobe to run out of time in this segment, but so I'm going to read a few of our Facebook comments. Then we come back, we'll let Kobe and Mr. Nate jump in. Lachey was like, "Speak it, Miss Emma." She's always she's
chairman of the Emma family.
Dr. Shannon Lewis said, "Awesome." Beth Quarles, and I hope I said her last name right. If you want to change something, get engaged in it. This should be the takeaway from today. Love this conversation. Lachey says, if you want change, you have to be the change. Everybody's amen. And she said, I'm going to be late for work trying to watch this.
Let's go on radio.
And Dr. Shannon Lewis said, Quabila, thanks for having such a great conversation this morning. Well, thank you so very much.
Thank you, everybody.
I have to give credit, though, to Chelsea and Dante.
Yes.
Chelsea Chapman and Dante Barker from the city of Jonesboro.
Yes.
They are the ones that spearheaded this Kwanzaa awareness celebration. And I've always taken a little bit of action as far as spreading information, but taking it to this level, I'm very happy they initiated this and pushed for this. I don't want to make it a continuing.
They're my babies.
Yeah, I love Chelsea and Dante. We have to fight over them, though.
Yeah. No, I'm the mama.
So, okay, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we'll let Kobe and Mr. Nate answer the question, and then we'll follow up with a final question and some more thoughts and let everyone share any words of advice. So stay tuned to Community Conversations, and we'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Heard the one about the comedian who couldn't wait to get home? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Jeff Foxworthy has been making people laugh for years, but he takes his role as a husband and father very seriously. So much so that he'd often hire a plane to get back from a late-night gig so he'd be there to take his daughters to school the next morning. In the same way, are you doing everything you can to make sure that you spend as much time with your family as possible? It's very important to provide for your family, but above all, they need your presence. When all is said and done, being there is what really matters. Remember, your family first.
For more resources on today's topic, go to markmerrill.com. The Family Minute with Mark Merrill, helping families love well.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook and KNOMEGA1908.com.
Meineke of Jonesboro is now Starks Auto Service, a full-service auto repair and vehicle maintenance center offering engine and transmission repair, brake service, tires, oil changes, and more, performed by ASE certified mechanics. The all-new Starks Auto Service, 2813 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, 870-204-7112. Starks Auto Service, Jonesboro.com.
The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was established on January 1st, 1977, originally serving Blytheville, Arkansas, and now serving Jonesboro, Blytheville, Osceola, Marion, and West Memphis, Arkansas. Today, the chapter continues to make an impact by focusing on Alpha's national community outreach initiatives such as My Brother's Keeper, A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, Go to High School, Go to College, Project Alpha, Boy Scouts, and the March of Dimes. The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is committed to Alpha's mission of developing leaders, promoting brotherhood and academic excellence, while providing service and advocacy to the community. More information about the Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is available at MOL Alphas on Facebook or via email at molalphas@gmail.com.
KLEK 102.5 FM is giving you more praise. That's right. Starting Wednesday, January 3rd, KLEK brings to you All Gospel Wednesdays, every Wednesday from 5 a.m. till 7 p.m. Enjoy all of your favorite gospel hits and get your praise on all day long with Cheryl Underwood Radio in the morning, Brother Cobbs during the day, and Hezekiah Walker to take you into your local church Bible study. Plus, the return of the KLEK Praise Break. Lift up your hands, rejoice, and praise Him all day, all Wednesday, every Wednesday on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Warm wishes for a season bright with special happiness. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from Craighead County E911 Director Jeff Presley.
Did you know KLEK has a brand new streaming app? That's right, you can listen to KLEK 102.5 FM anywhere in the world. The app is available for all Android phones and tablets, as well as iPhones and iPads. Just search your app store for KLEK and download the KLEK app for free today, and don't miss a beat of the education, entertainment, and empowerment on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We thank everyone for tuning in, for listening, and being engaged in our conversation. I have been truly enjoying this conversation. I haven't had to say much at all today, so that's a plus. So we're going to get back into our discussion. Before we went to break, I asked the panel, what can we do as adults to help drive the message home to the younger generations about collective work and taking responsibility within your community? So Mr. Kobe is going to give us his point of view since he works with young people.
Okay, two things that I want to talk about as far as showing the importance of to the generations behind us. One thing I would say is just making sure you talk to them and not at them.
Okay.
A lot of times, if you're giving a great message, but you seem like you're preaching to them or you're talking at them and belittling them, making them feel as if they're insignificant in any way, they're not going to listen, no matter how good the message is. Yeah. At that point, they may come back at some point later on and say, well, what Mr. Kobe or Mr. David was saying, it makes sense, but I just didn't like how he said it. And so with me working with youth, I've been working with youth for about 15 years, and so a lot of times, that's my approach. I want to talk to them. First of all, I want to listen to them, what their issue is, let them know that I care, and then talk to them in a way where, I give them an option, and sometimes I help them to feel as if it was their decision or it was their choice to do whatever they need to do in the situation, and then help them to know that they're empowered to be able to do it for themselves. A lot of the kids, they don't look for handouts. They don't want anybody to do anything for them, but sometimes they don't know what to do. And so by me just encouraging them and telling them, hey, this is what I think you should do, and if that doesn't work, then we can try something else or whatever. Just being there with them, that's my second thing, is just being present. I know that as a minority male, growing up, I always kind of wondered like what I would be, what kind of job I wanted to do, things like that. And so I realized that the things that I wanted to do, nobody was doing, like being active in the community and serving and just being a positive male role model. I didn't see that. And so for me, a long time, I had this idea of you can't be what you don't see. And so, that was my mind frame. Like, well, I just fit into this box of whatever society tells me that I should be, or that, what's expected of me. And I got to the point where, I realized that it was okay to be different. And that, if I wanted to be something that nobody else was being or nobody else was doing, that there's nothing wrong with that. I can create that mold for someone else. And so, like I said, the whole stigma of you can't be what you don't see, it kind of went out the window. And so I just think about the youth that we work with, they don't have a positive male role model in their lives. And so when you get them connected with somebody and they stay with them because they're so used to these broken relationships, but you get someone that's positive and they stay with them and they walk with them, through the good times and the bad, that helps them to see that, there is somebody that cares. And this is normal to have a healthy relationship with the male, and it not be a gang leader or a rapper or NBA player. This is just somebody in the community, that they go to church, they have a family, and they're just trying to be a productive, citizen in our community or whatever. And so, I just have this idea of the youth that are lost and they're in trouble and things like that. If they were to see men stepping up, doing what they're supposed to be doing for their families, being involved in the church, just being leaders in the community, then in essence they will help them to want to follow in those footsteps. Because believe it or not, in the communities, you're only going to get so far. Most of the people in communities anyway, you have this idea of where I'm going to, I live here, this is where I'm going to be, this is where my family is. And so a lot of them don't even think about college or anything like that. I'm not saying that college is the only option, but they don't see anything past the present. And so we can, like I said, talk to them and be present with them to show them that there is another route. I think we can make a significant difference.
That's good.
Awesome.
That's very good.
All right, and one thing I would like to see more of, and I'm going to put the challenge out to the city council or anyone that serves.
No pressure, Councilman.
In a position of government, start engaging young people in conversations on how it works, how the procedures work. I asked this question to each council member as they came when they were running for office. How would you like to see, or would you like to see some type of interaction with those that work just for the city of Jonesboro? Interact with the schools, children in schools, to teach them the process of how voting goes, how city council works. I know you can't show them every single thing on the inside, but get them involved in some of the process so they can be more interested and engaged and be willing to engage in, say, conversation or active and going to city council meetings, encouraging their parents to go to meetings, start the discussion. Let's start the discussion and help make some changes within the community in which we live. A lot of times parents are motivated by their children, so if we can get the kids motivated, we can get the parents hopefully motivated as well, and then we can get the ball rolling and create the snowball effect. That's just my
Very few people, very small percentage of people in Jonesboro have any idea how the city council works or what they do.
I would say a vast majority probably wouldn't know who their alderman who that person is. One thing I've tried to do, I made that commitment when I was running, was make sure I have opportunities for myself to be available to the public and say, hey, look, I want you to come and meet me and be engaged and know who I am. And if you got concerns, questions, as a professor might say, if you got questions, comments, or rude remarks, come and make them, but come and meet me. And then also, if you have a question about how we're doing things on the council, show up, and because locally that's going to affect you more every single day than the national level. So you have to be engaged locally.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. All right. And so, last talking point or question: if this principle is not taken to heart, what can be the possible negative outcomes? And we've seen when people don't work together, they're all about me, I. We've seen the effects of what can happen. But going forward, and not to make it sound like we're in dire times, but going forward from here, there are food insecurity, sadly, in 2017, where people's needs are not getting met. There are homeless issues. People's needs are not getting met. There are young people that are either becoming addicted to substances, at earlier ages. There are people who are not going to college because they don't have the proper funds. If these things are not strengthened, these entities are not strengthened, like what can be the negative from your personal opinion, experience?
Nate, you had to let Nate answer.
Make a political statement, Nate.
I don't ever do politics, Emil. Come on. That's a great question. You know what I was thinking about whenever you ask it? This is probably not the best day to make this example or this connection, seeing it's 4 degrees outside. But you always hear that story. We're sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree generations before. And you look at the issues that we're facing, and we talked about many of them today. They're not going to get better unless we collectively come together and try to do something about making a difference in those areas that can impact true change and change people's lives. We've seen it in food insecurity, we've seen it in health, we've seen it in relationships and what it means to have meaningful influences in your life. All important things for us to be working towards. But ultimately, there's not going to be the shade in the future unless we go and plant that tree right now. And so it's on all of us collectively. And I do want to just back up for one point, because I think how we go about planting that tree or making that difference is important. And we talk about politics, and as maybe you know, I ran for office in the past. And I believe whether it's in politics or whether it's in working with groups, the way that we talk to each other, the way we deal with people, the way we communicate matters. And too often now it's easy to vilify or demonize your opponent or the other side. It's much harder to listen. It's much harder to show up with an open mind and truly want to communicate with somebody. And so I think that's one of the greatest things that we can pass along to future generations is a willingness to understand the person that's across the table from you and try to figure out, what makes them tick and what's their approach. And I think that would help us to be able to, collectively be able to work together and try to tackle all the responsibilities on us now, but to in a way that we can build a better future for everybody.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We have a minute, Mr. Emma. Would you like to take us out?
Oh, one thing. I've always practiced what's been called the social gospel. The fact of the matter is, there is no gospel that is not social.
Okay.
That's what the gospel is. And it has to do with the fact that we separate things out: spiritual, educational, political, whatever. People are whole. It's one whole person. And when we minister to the one whole person, we try to take care of all of their needs. And we don't just single out one thing and say, we're going to help you with this, we're going to help you with this. And that's the reason a little strong part of the fan program is we want to get to know you as a person. We don't have spiritual needs and emotional needs and educational needs. We're human beings who have needs. All right? All right.
I know we got to go. We got a few seconds. One book that we're talking about would help, I believe, is called Restoring At-Risk Communities. And I think that's a great book that would help everybody as a whole to understand and really move forward.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas minority.